Hello, and welcome back to Wild Sanative. This is the Path of Wholeness. In the first video, I shared a part of my story. I shared where this journey began for me, not from a place of having everything figured out, not from a place of peace, but from grief, from loss, from questioning everything I thought I knew about life, love, purpose, healing, and myself. And after walking through so many endings, I began to realize something very important. Wholeness is not what I thought it was. For a long time, I believed healing meant getting back to who I used to be. I thought if I could just feel okay again, if I could just stop hurting, if I could just rebuild the pieces of my life, then maybe I would be whole again. But that is not what happened. Because the truth is, some losses change you. Some experiences can open places inside of you that never fully close in the same way. And for a while, that can feel terrifying. It can feel like you are broken. It can feel like the old version of you is gone and you do not know who you are anymore. But over time, I began to understand that wholeness is not about becoming untouched by pain. It is not about erasing grief. It is not about pretending the past did not happen. And it is not about forcing yourself to be positive when your heart is still aching. Wholeness is the gentle process of bringing all yourself back into relationship. The parts of you that are strong, the parts of you that are tired, the parts of you that are grieving, the parts of you that are angry, the parts of you that are confused, the parts of you that still hope, the parts of you that stopped hoping for a while. Wholeness says nothing within me has to be abandoned in order for me to heal. That was a powerful realization for me because for so much of my life I had learned to separate from myself. I learned to be okay when I was not okay. I learned to keep going when I needed to rest. I learned to carry pain quietly. I learned to be strong in ways that sometimes required me to silence my own heart. And maybe you have too. Maybe you learned that your emotions were too much. Maybe you learned that your needs were inconvenient. Maybe you learned that your sensitivity was weakness. Maybe you learned that love had to be earned. Maybe you learned to survive by becoming who others needed you to be. And then one day you wake up and realize, I do not fully know myself. I know my roles, my responsibilities. I know what people expect from me. I know how to function. But who am I underneath of all that? The question is where the path begins. Wholeness is not a destination. It is a return. A return to body, a return to the heart, a return to the truth, a return to the natural rhythm of your own soul. And this return often begins quietly. It begins when you stop running from what you feel. It begins when you place your hand on your heart and say, I am here, I am listening, I will not leave myself again. That may sound simple, but for many of us, it is one of the deepest healing practices we will ever learn. Because pain often teaches us to leave the body. Grief can make us numb, trauma can make us disconnect, overwhelm can make us live in our minds, constantly thinking, planning, remembering, worrying, trying to make sense of what happened. But the body holds truth. The body remembers. The body carries the emotions we were not ready to feel. And the body also knows how to begin healing when it finally feels safe. That is why on the path to wholeness, we do not force healing. We create safety for healing to unfold. We breathe. We slow down. We listen. We notice where we are tense. We notice where we are guarded. We notice what triggers us. We notice what softens us. We notice what brings us back to life. Nature teaches this so beautifully. A tree does not shame itself for losing its leaves. The earth does not rush winter. A flower does not bloom by force. Everything has a rhythm. Everything has a season, and so do we. These are seasons of breaking open, seasons of silence, seasons of grieving, seasons of rebuilding, seasons of remembering, and each one belongs. Wholeness asks us to stop seeing ourselves as projects that need to be fixed. You are not a problem to solve. You are a living being returning to balance. You are a soul remembering its own light. You are a heart learning how to trust life again. And sometimes the first step is not some grand transformation. Sometimes the first step is simply telling the truth. I am hurting, I am tired, I am grieving, I am angry, I am afraid, I want more, I miss myself, I want to come home. There is power in telling the truth without judging it, because what we can honestly meet, we can begin to heal. And what we can continue to hide from often continues to shape us from beneath the surface. This is why emotional truth is such a sacred part of the path to wholeness. We cannot heal what we are constantly pretending not to feel. We cannot return to ourselves while rejecting the very parts of us that are asking for compassion. So when I speak of wholeness, I am not speaking of perfection. I am speaking of integration. I am speaking of learning how to hold yourself with tenderness. I am speaking of allowing your life experience to become wisdom instead of walls. I am speaking of letting grief deepen your compassion without letting it steal your spirit. I am speaking of remembering that even after loss, there is still life moving through you. Maybe quieter than before, maybe slower, maybe different, but still sacred, still worthy, still here. The path of wholeness is a journey coming back into sacred relationship with yourself, with your body, with your emotions, with nature, with spirit, with your own inner knowing. It is learning to ask, what is this pain trying to show me? What part of me needs love right now? Where have I abandoned myself? What belief am I still carrying that no longer belongs to me? What would it feel like to live from truth instead of survival? These are not questions we answer all at once. They unfold over time, layer by layer, breath by breath, season by season, and that is okay. Healing is not a race. Awakening is not a performance. Wholeness is not something you prove to the world. It is something you begin to feel within yourself. A little more peace, a little more clarity, a little more honesty, a little more softness, a little more strength, a little bit more ability to say, this is who I am now. And I am allowed to keep becoming. So today I invite you all to sit with this question. What does wholeness mean to me? Not what the world says it should mean, not what someone else told you healing should look like, but what does your soul long to return to? Is it peace, truth, love, safety, purpose, your voice, your body, your joy, your faith, yourself? Let that question live in you gently. You do not have to force the answer, just listen. The path will begin to speak. Thank you for being here with me. Welcome back to Wild Sanative. Welcome back to the Path of Wholeness, and welcome back to yourself. Healing is not about becoming untouched by life. It is about gathering every lost piece of yourself with love and remembering that you are never beyond repair.